It is an absolutely gorgeous day here on Closure Farm. You can see it's a little chilly. We got the fire going in the stove. I just stoked it. And Kalon tilled up the garden. Our tractor leaves somewhat to be desired. It leaks oil, but it gets the job done. It runs well. And so Dave had a tiller and he let us borrow it, and Kalon got this all tilled up, and it turned out fairly nice. And we're pulling up some hills here. I've got most of this first hill planted in Norland red potatoes. I found a couple more in my pocket. I've got to stick out there. I like red potatoes because they make the best mashed potatoes, and we like mashed or cream potatoes, some people call them. Anyway, I wanted to show you quick how to cut a potato to plant. These ones that I'm doing here now are Yukon Gold. I really like these too. We didn't get too many of these. Mostly what I plant is the Kennebec, and that's a white potato, and the Norland Reds. But this year I want to plant a few Yukon Golds as well. And so we'll plant those last in this row that Kalon's working on now. But I wanted to show you, just for those of you who may not know, this is pretty elementary for those of you who are gardeners. This is a seed potato, and you can see it's got several eyes on it. There are some smaller ones, but they're pretty small. This one has a lot of them. Even these eyes that are that small like that, that's fine. That will come on out. It's just going to take longer. So I try to, each piece I try to have an eye that's at least, like this, like these size here. And so you just want to make sure that you have enough potato to feed that seed piece until it roots out. So about like that. And then when you plant it, you want to plant the seed piece, the eye, up, so it doesn't have to waste energy coming back up around to come up out of the soil. So that's how you cut the seed pieces. We always plant potatoes in the middle of March here in central Kentucky, and you may have to cover them. You may have a frost that threatens them sometime in April when they begin to come up good. But it's best to get them on in the ground because they don't do well in the real hot days. In the summer you want to dig them before then. If I have a piece like I just chunked here, it doesn't really have a viable eye on it. I just toss that piece. I've got plenty that have good eyes on them here. And so we'll have plenty of potatoes to plant. So that's how you cut them. And I'll show you in just a minute how we plant them.
What we're doing here is we're taking the soil that's between the rows and we're going to mound it up. And we want a deep bed for the potatoes so that they got room to grow. They like the soil a little looser with room to grow, and the ground here is fairly rocky, and we had the neighbor take his chisel plow, and I suppose, or actually it was a turning plow, he got, I would say, 12 to 16 inches deep. We don't have the implement or the horsepower in our tractor to do that, but we got him to turn it over for us. And so we do have a disc, a 7-foot disc, and I've ran the disc over this piece of dirt here, I would say probably 7 times to get it good and loose, to aerate it, so the soil isn't compacted at all. It's nice and loose, as you can see, for me to work with, and it's easy to hill these mounds up for the potatoes. But also too, as you saw earlier in the picture, I panned over towards the tractor there, and Dave, our neighbor, Brummel, and partner in our ministry, has a 7-foot tiller. And so I ran that through here also twice. And so the soil is good and worked and good and loose. And last fall, we had put quite a bit of amendments into the soil, and if you could have seen it last year before we had amended it, the soil is quite different, and we're so very thankful for Bob Gregory for helping us out. We had sent him our soil sample, and he had given us instructions on how to amend it properly. And we did grow some greens last fall, and the winter was very pleasant, and we had to cover them a little bit, the greens, but we kept them through the winter, and we did eat on them. And I tell you what, the taste was amazing. And so if you put the nutrients back into the soil that are lacking, the body recognizes it, and it gives it the satisfaction that it's really needing. Instead of to keep putting dead food into our bodies to satisfy it, we can give it what it needs. And so the soil here is coming along. It's going to take work. There's still a lot of rock in here, but we're picking it as we hill it, and as we work it, we're pulling more and more rock out of it. But we're going to do at least 2 rows here for the potatoes of hilling it, and then we're going to go through after we hill it and just level the tops off, as you can see this is. And then Dana, she's going to go over with you how to plant these. So it's been a joy just to see how the Lord can take soil when you properly work it as He's instructed us to till the ground, because this really was very poor soil, and so we're looking forward to a bountiful crop, hopefully, and we're going to get some irrigation in here too, and when we do that we can update you with all of that. But next we'll go over the planting, and Dana will talk to you about that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how to plant. I found a couple more red Norlands in my pocket, and so I'm going to go ahead and plant those, because this whole row up to here is red Norlands. And I did a video a while back on my 3 favorite gardening tools, and I'm using 2 of them today. This is the Hori Hori, and it's a Japanese gardening knife. I like both of these tools because they have increments on here. It's the nature of potatoes that they set their fruit above the seed piece, and so that's why when you plant seed pieces for potatoes, you want to plant them really deep, at least 4 inches deep. And as they grow, you what we call hill them up. You'll pull up dirt around them, and that helps them to set more potatoes and keep the potatoes from becoming exposed to the light, which makes them turn green. And that's not good for you. That's I think it's called solanine that's in there, and that's not good for you. I use both of these. I've been trying out the Hori Hori today, but what I find for planting the potatoes is it hurts my hand a little bit because of the square edges as I pull it to pull the soil back. So I've been using the Hori Hori. I've got 2 seed pieces right here. I'll use one for one and one for the other, and just kind of show you the difference. The Hori Hori, I just stab it down into the ground and pull it back and set my seed piece with the eye up. Just set it down to the bottom of my tool and just kind of cover it. Oh, I'm going to use the other one. Let's see. See how this does on my hand. That's much easier on the hand to use this. So I'll probably use my spade for planting the rest of them, because it's easier on the hand. The Hori Hori has its applications, but I don't think planting potatoes is one of them. It's the first time I'd ever tried it for that. So I'm just going to kind of draw a line in the row, and I'll come back later. We have some markers. I'm going to mark that this is the red Norland, and I'm going to start the Yukon Golds here, and then we'll continue on this end with Yukon Golds until we get to where we need to plant the Kennebecks. So that's about it for planting. We did get our walking space a little bit wide here. We should have brought our tape measure out and measured, but we're kind of in a race trying to get these in because rain's coming in tomorrow and we don't have a lot of time left today. So we got it a little bit crooked there. We believe all things should be done decently and in order. So as Kalon is shoveling, I've been coming back with my little cultivator tool here. I'll show you. This is another one of my favorite gardening tools that I guard jealously from injury. This is a real good quality one. I have no idea where I got it. I've had it for many years and it has served me well. Just a little cultivator tool. So as Kalon shovels and pulls up the bed, I just go down the top of it and level it out with my little cultivator. So I can fix this a lot with the cultivator tool as far as it being too wide here. It's a little more narrow down on the other end. But I sure am having fun out here. We got to get back to work. I was just here leveling out this bed and just kind of thinking back on my childhood and stuff. And I was not raised Seventh-day Adventist, but I was raised in the country down in Alabama on a farm. And I just want to give a shout out to Mom and Daddy and tell you how much I appreciate the things that you taught me growing up in the country. It is absolutely priceless. Thank you. I'm stagger planting these. Too wide. You're supposed to plant them about a foot apart. I crowd them just a little bit, maybe 10 inches, just in case some don't come up. I have my very own rock picker. I've got 2 rows pulled out and the potatoes are almost planted. And I'm ever so grateful. What?
This rock picking reminds me of when I was a young man in grade school and high school. My brother and myself and a couple of friends of ours, we were called the rock picking champions of Sheridan County. We were foolish enough to do this as a labor, as young men. So brings back memories. But you know, there's a spiritual lesson in getting these rocks out of the soil. The soil is our heart, and the rocks can bind up the seed and inhibit it from growing and being productive. And if we have rocks in our soil or sin in our heart, it keeps the seed of the gospel from growing and sprouting. And so these are the things that Dan and I had prayed for before we began our work today, was to have the Lord show us what lessons He can in the garden, because John 17:3 says, "This is life eternal, that they may know Thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom Thou hast sent." And so we want to understand who God is, and we can know Him through working in the garden, also through Scripture, through His parables that reveal God, who He is. And so each day we come out, we're going to make it a habit that we ask God to show us who He is by our labors in the garden.